Hi, I'm John Atack,
I'm Sam Atack.
and we're today going to talk about education. We've got a lovely book. Would you like to hold the lovely book up? Yeah. And you can put it between us, and then Spike will probably do something fantastic
Sue
with it.
Cowley, How to Survive Your First Year in Teaching.
How to Survive Your First Year in Teaching. Now, I got this at the charity shop, thrift store, if you like. And so it was, how much was it? Oh, it doesn't say, it was £1, I think.
Yeah.
So, just over $1. Well worth it. And what surprised me about this book is that it is approved by the National Union of Teachers. So this is a genuine teaching manual for teachers in UK schools. Now, my friend Ira Chalef, in his wonderful book, Intelligent Disobedience, has talked about teachers' manuals in the United States. So we're going to send you off there to find very much the same kind of thing. But my assistant is going to read out the first passage for us to make fun of.
Right, here we start. Perfect the deadly stare.
Perfect the deadly stare, everyone.
As a teacher, perhaps the most effective of all the available ways of communicating your feelings is the deadly stare. Perfect this and you'll never have to ask for silence again. You will be able to walk into a classroom and stare your students into submission.
I like the use of the word submission.
Yeah. The deadly stare says, I am the teacher, I am in charge, and if you do not close your mouth, stop talking, and wait for my commands, you are likely to suffer in the most horrible way known to humankind. So be sensible, be quiet, and let's get on with the lesson. Right, so what is the deadly stare? It is fixed stare at an individual who is not doing what you wish. Raised brow to show your surprise at a student's temerity. Pursed mouth to show disapproval. Okay, no, that's the first.
The deadly stare. Oh dear, submission. We want to get submission from our students. Now, I have every sympathy for teachers. Their job is impossible because they are not paid enough, and perhaps even more important, they're not respected enough. And there is no job that's more important than teaching. That is my perspective. Good teachers are worth far more than their weight in gold. And the way that the systems are set up, which is the standards model, which is used all over the place, actually degrades teachers. It means that they don't really get that much input into the lessons. In this country, in the United Kingdom, they're given the national curriculum, and they just have to do the same stuff over and over. I complained. Sam has a brother, Dan, who is 15, and who also lives with me, which is great. And I complained to the school that he's doing Romeo and Juliet by Shakespeare, and he's doing an Inspector Calls by J.B. Priestley, and I found that they never actually watched the play. And so I thought, I'll be helpful, I'll get him to watch the play. And he got worse marks, because what they're meant to do is memorise the little sections of the play that are put in their book. And if they stray beyond that, then the automated marking system, which I'm afraid, teachers have poor, imagine that, sitting down and marking hundreds of these things. It must drive me crazy. So I have tremendous respect for you. But it didn't help him to love Shakespeare. It didn't help him, it's like when you did Macbeth. Yeah. Remember? And what did we get into with Macbeth?
We watched The Throne of Blood.
We watched Kurosawa, which is the only watchable version of Macbeth.
And then we fell asleep through 3 other different versions of it.
Yeah, genuinely fell asleep. But we got into the history of Macbeth. It was written in 1606.
King James.
The King James had come to the throne in 1603. The Gunpowder Plot of November the 5th was in 1605. So he was running a little bit scared. In the play, 2 kings are killed, both of them off stage, the only off-stage killings in Shakespeare. They're Scottish kings. And you can see just how careful, James I had written a book called Demonology. explaining his belief in witchcraft. And so we got hubble, bubble, toil and trouble, all of this fantastic information, which was all of it completely useless to you when it came to the exam. He did pass, by the way, in case you were worried. So the deadly stare. This is, elsewhere it's known as the predator stare. It's entrained in Scientology. I hate to mention them again, but they do what is called Training Routine Zero, where you confront another person fixedly. Perhaps you would like to read the second quotation from How to Survive Your First Year in Teaching.
I would be honoured. As I've mentioned before, your children want boundaries. They are still unsure of where they stand in the world and what is expected of them. Even as adults, we crave the security of knowing what we are expected to do.
Tell me.
I know you certainly do.
I crave the security of knowing what I'm expected to do all the time.
Me too.
Yep.
Yeah, shall I go into the next?
Yeah, go into the next one. That one was fun just by itself. I don't think I need to add anything to it.
As with the first time your students meet you, you will find that some of the parents or guardians are more scared of you than you are of them. Keep this in mind and try to put them at ease. Oh, that's quite nice.
That's pleasant.
Oh, and then it goes from there to, if the child is with them, you have an added advantage, as you can praise or embarrass the student in front of his or her parents.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The use of humiliation in communication. I have a little rule, which is if I'm going to disagree with somebody, unless they're a big nasty bully and they've done horrible things publicly, I take them aside and talk to them on their own, because I don't think that humiliating people, making people anxious and uncertain, is a good way of getting them to become assertive and willing to express themselves.
Or make them inspired to learn. It's more a way to get them to conform. Really.
Yeah. And I mean, we had that thing with your school where your tutor there, who's a lovely bloke, but he decided he was going to tell you the rules, and he got quite annoyed with you, and he was very gracious and he apologised afterwards. But he said to me that he'd never actually had a student, and Sam is 17, he'd never had a student answer back, not in a hostile way, but say, no, I don't agree with you, I think this.
Yeah. So he wasn't quite sure how to handle that, obviously.
So I gave him a copy of Ira Chaliff's Intelligent Disobedience and said, we need to nurture this in children. We need children to be able to say, I don't agree with you, and this is why. Because otherwise we're just creating a drone society. And look at where that's got us. Look at where we are in the world now. We have a democracy, but people don't have the capacity to assert themselves so that democracy can work. That's my point of view. And that's largely because schools under the standards movement they're pushing towards conformity and obedience, and we would like them to push towards creativity. Now, this is where intelligent disobedience becomes important, that if kids learn to assert themselves pleasantly, courteously, then we will have a decent world. Yeah. If they have to bottle up what they feel, then you'll get passive-aggressive behaviours. Yes. Whenever you bully somebody into doing something, whenever you terrorise somebody into doing something, as soon as they get the chance, they'll have you back. Now, example from history. Kublai Khan, the invasion of Japan, that it's been found the largest fleet up until the D-Day landings in Normandy on June the 6th, 1944, the largest fleet ever assembled was assembled by Kublai Khan in the end of the 13th century, somewhere around there, the late 1200s, to invade Japan. They made their first landing and they were beaten off by 300 samurai or something. But they'd got this huge fleet, and the fleet sank. And it's always been thought, until they started digging the ships up from the ocean, the seabed, that this was because of a typhoon. But they found, now looking at the ships, it's because of the way they were built. Yeah. That the Chinese craftsmen who built the ships made damn sure that Kublai Khan, who of course was a grandson of Genghis Khan and a Mongol, not of Chinese origin, they made damn sure it failed. And I think that's the pattern. If you want a society based on bullying, then that's what's going to happen. If you want a society that's based on consensus and agreement, and I'm very keen at the moment on the V Taiwan programme. Go and have a look at the VTaiwan programme, where voters actually get to talk about better ways of doing things rather than just yes, no,
Yeah.
love, hate, truth, lies,
Polarization.
black and white thinking. So anyway,
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
short digression
Final point.
on Chinese history there.
Right. Well, this one's quite simple.
Yep.
A good way to avoid confrontation with a parent is to use some of the tactics you would employ with a difficult student.
Deadly stare.
Use the techniques discussed in Chapter 3 to diffuse the situation. Deadly stare is, of course, in Chapter 3 of this book.
So, if you get trouble with a parent, you raise an eyebrow and you look at them and you purse your
Yeah,
lips.
so if you're a parent and see a teacher doing this...
I do feel, we are going to do another little video after this one about authoritar, because that's our favourite subject. Did you have one more?
No, that was it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
So that's all we have to say about that. That was, I'm sure Spike will put something up. How to survive your first year in teaching and what we think about it. We'd add to that the fantastic work of Sir Ken Robinson. Ken Robinson is an English educationalist who moved to the United States. Was involved in very important work in the 1970s in the United Kingdom, and he's written a couple of books that explain why the standards movement is failing us so badly. That the idea of, in Britain we had Michael Gove, who's a senior minister still in the current Conservative government, and he's the man who said we've all had enough of experts. And so, I guess if he wants surgery, he just gets his next door neighbour to do it, He decided that our school system would no longer have any coursework component. Everything would be by examination. And that's a slap in the face for teachers. That's saying that your opinion of how a student is doing really doesn't matter and we don't trust you.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be that way. Schools should be communities of learning where curiosity and fascination is developed. They shouldn't be places where you get bored as hell and want to go home.
Yeah, where they turn up the central heating so the students are more sleepy.
Yeah.
So they won't say anything and just listen to what you say to them.
Be compliant. I
Yeah.
have a deadly stare.
Ah.
So, thank you very much for sharing our time with you. I've been John Asack,
I've been Sammy Tack.
and we wish you well.